Translatorspeak. Renowned translators from 4 languages, including 3 focal languages, converse with one another on specific issues concerning translating from Indian languages. They will discuss the translator's position as an insider-outsider. For this session, please join me in welcoming Anurava Sinha. He translates classic, modern and contemporary Bengali fiction and non-fiction into English. 31 of his translations have been published so far. Twice the winner of the Crossword Translation Award for Shankar Chaurangi and Anita Agnihotri 17 respectively. He has also been shortlisted for the Independent Foreign Fiction Prize for his translation of Chaurangi. Please join me in welcoming him. Sachin Ketkar is a bilingual writer, translator, editor and blogger. He has 2 collections of Marathi poetry to his credit. A selection from these collections is available in English translation as Skin, Spam and Other Fake Encounters, selected Marathi poems in translation. He has extensively translated present-day Marathi poetry, most of which is collected in an anthology he edited, titled Live Update, an anthology of recent Marathi poetry. He has also translated extensively from Gujarati. Please join me in extending him a very warm welcome. Venkatchelapathy, historian, author and translator, is professor at the Madras Institute of Development Studies. He writes in Tamil and English and has published widely on the social, cultural and intellectual history of colonial Tamil Nadu. His publications include In Those Days There Was No Coffee, Writings in Cultural History, The Province of the Book, Scholars, Scribes and Scribblers in Colonial Tamil Nadu, and Chennai, North Madras. He is the winner of the V.K.R. V. Rao Prize 2007 and is currently writing a biography of Periyar for Penguin. Please join me in welcoming him. Rakshanda Jalil is a writer, translator and literary historian. She has published over 15 books, including Liking Progress, Loving Change, a literary history of the progressive writers' movement in Urdu, A Rebel and Her Cause, the life and work of Comrade Rashid Jahan, as well as 4 edited volumes of short stories. She runs an organization called Hindustani Awaaz, devoted to the popularization of Hindi Urdu literature and culture, and writes a weekly column for Daily Om. She is presently editing a volume of essays on Ismat Chugtai for Oxford University Press. Please join me in extending her a very warm welcome.
So, the 3 people here on my right could probably translate the entire lot of Indian literature into them. And yet, we live in very paradoxical times when all the major English language publishers throw their arms up in the air and say, where are the good books? Where are the good books? Gentlemen and ladies, where are the good books? Are they not in our country? Yeah, so the books are all there. They're all there in all the languages that writers in India write in, and they're all waiting to be translated into other languages, including English, and be read by large numbers of people who are currently reading nothing but WhatsApp messages. Do you find yourself competing with WhatsApp messages? Right. So, no wonder our tribe feels like outsiders over here. We try to be insiders to the current discourse of communication, but we inevitably end up feeling like outsiders because A, nobody is reading books, and then among those people who are reading books, even fewer people are reading translations. Right, Dede? Yeah.
I know, I'd like to kind of disagree with you in a sense. Because I think this is a great time to be a translator. 15, 20 years ago, I don't think a translator would have been invited to a literary festival. They were treated so shabbily. I remember signing a contract 15, 16 years ago with a publisher who remained unnamed. It was basic. It basically amounted to, just selling yourself in slavery. From that time, I think translators, the tribe has increased. The number of books from Indian languages being translated into English has increased. And I think that's a very important shift. It's not just the numbers and magnitude and scale. but a certain self-confidence in the translators. Earlier we used to believe that you were translating for a non-Indian English audience. It took us 50 or 100 years to find out that they are not interested in what we are writing. Then we realized that we should be translating for our own people. And that has given us a great sense of independence as well. And I don't have now to gloss Italy as a rice cake. And it turns out that the poor peasant was eating rice cakes in his little hovel and hut. So this, I think this is a great time to study. I think there are more publishers wanting to publish translations. And translations have also been bestsellers. And it has changed the status of writers. Ashoka Mitran, before he was, his book was reviewed by Paul Zachariah, under the age of about 65, hardly anybody noticed him outside Tamil Nadu. Now I think he's almost an international figure. Look at Bama, look at Salma. The number of Tamil writers who are traveling outside Tamil Nadu, going to workshops, going to residency programs, going to festivals, international festivals. It is giving the writers themselves a great sense of confidence, and it is also eroding the power of English a little bit, in the sense that the writers are getting more importance than translators, as it should be.
So that's fine, but without disagreeing with you qualitatively, I would say that it's a shame, absolutely a shame, that the writers whom you have mentioned of such fantastic caliber find it hard to sell 2,000 copies of their books in translation. And I would like to be positive, I would like to feel that it's a great time, but after 8 years in this business, I don't feel it's a great time, given what could be, but vis-a-vis what is.
So there appears to be, I agree that this is a very good time, it's a sunrise industry and so on, but for it to be sustainable, for us to actually reap the benefits of this very good phase, we need to be a little more discriminate. And I say this as someone who translates, who reads other people's translations and who reviews translations a good deal. So I have a sense of what the market is producing, and I'm not entirely happy with what the market is producing. I think publishers, editors, translators, everybody needs to be a little more discriminate, and this indecent haste to be published, there has to be some kind of curb there, By all means introduce those who don't know those languages to things that you've read and liked in your language. By all means do that. But this hurry to be published is something that is very worrying. And somewhere the checks have to come from the publishing industry and us reviewers, translators as well.
Yeah, I would actually agree with Anurava. Though Indian writing in English and Indian writing in English translation ought to be a kind of same category. It seems that they are playing out in a very different way, and there is a different kind of market dynamics to both of these categories. Though the fact remains that both of these use Indian material in English language. So I am puzzled. I have often asked myself that why are these two dynamics different? So that is the one question that I am asking as an insider and outsider. Somebody who writes in Marathi and somebody who writes also in English. So I have often felt that why these two different dynamics to text in the same language, dealing with more or less the same material. So the question that I ask myself is that probably it so happens that the space from where Indian writing in English comes from and the space from where Indian writing in other Indian languages and bhashas come from are very different. And that determines its dynamics and market, the way market responds to it. And I have often used this analogy that in ancient times, Sanskrit was a language which was well formed, which was elite, which was refined, and Prakrits were the languages which were spoken without worrying about refinement or well-madness. So I think today's situation seems to be analogous between relation between English and Indian languages, in other Indian languages, bhasha. That the whole question of refinement, the elite placing of English, and need for well-formed English seems to take its toll when you translate from, for example, my own experience from Marathi. would be Marathi poetry is such a raw and directness compared to Indian poetry in English, which is so which insists at least on being very well formed and Sanskrit. So, and then it imposes its constraints on me as a translator. I have to bring in refinement where it's not needed, and that goes against very poetics of Marathi. So, what I feel is that the space occupied by Indian English today and the space occupied by English is a hierarchical space, and that's why there will always be a gap between Indian writing in English and Indian writing in English translation. So Chetan Bhagat will sell more even if it is not very well made.
But is he Sanskrit or Prakrit as far as English goes?
I could, looking at the space from where it comes from, I would say it's still Sanskrit. We are in the space of maybe the elite upper urban caste location. Compared to say, for example, Baluta, where it comes from. We have two different spaces. And Chetan Bhagat comes from Baluta.
This is great. Now let me ask both of you. Do you find yourself with the notion of translating up when you are translating into English? You know, moving from Prakrit to Sanskrit.
No, I've never ever gone to my but
Now that you come to what about that?
No, I have never thought of it as a mobility at all. If anything, I see it horizontally. I think the stretch has to be like this rather than like this for any translation. And I've frankly never thought of it as a movement up from one language to another. Yes, the reach sort of increases in a sense that you're going to a different audience, you're reaching out to a different kind of audience. And what is interesting is that look at the ratio, the proportion. The print run in Hindi, for example, is that much more, and the print run in English translation would be that much less. And despite that, at the outer, it could be 1,000, it could be 1,200,
well,
it could be 2,000. Right?
2,000 is where the publishers have now settled at.
And that, with that target of 2,000, assuming that you sell the entire first print run, despite that, the reviews that you get, the coverage that you get in English translation is that much more. So why are we are a great one for talking about numbers. Recent political events have sensitized us to Gadit and to mathematics. And yet that mathematics is not working when it comes to translation. That the numbers are that much more in the parent language. Not always in Urdu, because Urdu publishing is still a very small, shrinking market. But not in Hindi. In Hindi, an original book, Anishwar Nath Renu, would be published in several thousand. And the translation would be 2,000 maximum. And yet, we would like to believe that its reach is more. Defies sense.
I would like to believe that it's a horizontal move, even though sometimes I say jokingly that I'm a Tamil writer who occasionally condescends to write in English. But the fact remains that English is the master language, it's the language of privilege and power which takes you to literary festivals, etc. So this, I'll give you an example in relation to translation, how English can be so powerful. When the Tamil writer Jody Cruz, he published a novel, and his novel he got a Sahitya Akademi Award, and his novel was translated into English. The contract was signed for English translation. The text itself was translated, a huge volume, a big book of 400-500 pages. And at the last elections, he campaigned for BJP and Narendra Modi. Immediately, the publisher and the translator withdrew the contract and the translation. The translation was not published. Now, my question is, let us say if a translator from Odisha had translated and had said, now because of the political position taken by the novelist, I am withdrawing the translation, would anybody have cared? So I think in that sense, we find that sometimes the translator, because the translator is using English, has a position of power. I am not endorsing Jody Cruz's political position, far from it. But for a translator to actually dictate the terms is a demonstration of the fact that English is powerful and we have to conceive it. And work, factor it in when we work.
How do you account for this power? I mean, 2,000 copies versus say 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 copies in the original language. Where is this power of the English translation?
Okay, the translation gets you shortlisted. Yes, certainly.
Yeah, I will bring back the discussion to the question you started.
Can you hear?
Yeah. So the question that you started out with, where are the good books? What do you mean by good books in English? And what do you mean by good books in other languages won't be same. Means there would be books which would be considered very good in the languages, but when they are appear in translation, you might not actually see them as good books, for instance. So the question of goodness cannot be raised in a kind of universal manner. We have to nuance it a bit. And the question of equality is definitely there, even if quantitatively English holds a smaller space. But in terms of dictating literary cultures or in terms of visibility and articulate, you get more visibility outside the languages in English. So that power definitely.
Maybe the author gets a bit of visibility. Where is the visibility of translations in books? I don't see them. Frankly, I mean, I may sound disillusioned, but there are, that between the 5 major English language publishers, about 20 translations are produced every month. Where do we get to see them? Can anyone here name them?
You do actually. Let me give you an example from Urdu. Shamsur Rahman Farooqi wrote this novel in Urdu and it created the usual ripples in purely literary circles.
That's right.
In fact, in Urdu, what's interesting is that the very few novels being written and the few that are being written for discerning readers, not for the popular. Not like earlier times when books were written in large numbers and there was a large Urdu reading audience. So Shamsur Rahman Farooqi's book had a modest print run and it of course got those very sort of flattering reviews in Urdu. Then it was transliterated into Devanagari and it got the daira or bada ho gaya. The circle became bigger and more reviews happened and so on. And then it was translated into English by the author himself. And it is suddenly like a new literary phenomenon has happened. Literally in front of our eyes. So Anurava, I do feel that the translation into English does get you attention. The same man, the same novel. And I like to use this example again and again to illustrate exactly how the same novel, the same word, the same person who's in any case a very well-known name in Urdu, relatively speaking a lesser known name in English. And yet when his novel is translated by the author himself into English, it is suddenly being hailed as a new film.
So an outsider has become an insider to the hallowed circles of English language books.
Yeah, and the Express carries a full page review and suddenly it just has a life of its own, a momentum of its own.
Coming back to what you said, we are not discussing translations between other languages. The very fact that we are discussing translations into English underlines the whole idea that English holds a privileged place in the world of Indian literary establishment. So what about translations from Gujarati to Konkani, for example? We are not discussing them. We are discussing...
Let's discuss them.
Yeah. So,
tell us about them.
So I think we can contrast it with English in some way. That whole question of visibility comes in when you are translating into English. But say for example, if Malayalam short story is translated into Gujarati, it won't get that kind of visibility or even some sort of recognition in national terms or even local terms.
All this is beginning to sound a lot like there is a slightly extra literary objective translating into English. Or am I just being passive? Getting recognition, getting reach. Are these the key reasons for translating a book?
I think translator, what is the key?
I'm asking the
You have
question.
done 31 books. Arnava, you have done 31 books.
As I explained earlier, for me translating is like singing. I like a good tune, so I start singing it. I don't care how many people can hear it. If it's good, it will find its listeners. If I've done a good job, it will find its listeners. But I don't know, this whole business about extending reach and so on, all this is post-hoc. When you sit down at a panel discussion and try to analyze and write and so on. None of us starts with that objective, right?
We could start.
We translate what we like, actually.
Yeah.
No, authors, translators don't start on that note.
Yeah.
But if you look at the book culture, it's the way books travel. And
What book culture in India? Is there a book culture?
no, whatever little that we have.
Yeah,
whatever little that we have.
Facebook culture. I mean, I'm a big user of Facebook, but
But then these dynamics do play a role while translating into English, and they inform your translation also in some way.
yeah.
Means we keep Indian English audience in mind when we translate from Gujarati to English. So the audience that who you translate for, that we definitely keep in mind.
I think something happened in the post-independence period. Certainly in the early part of the 20th century, so much was translated directly from Bengali to Tamil, Marathi to Tamil. Many Tamil people believe that V.S. Kandegar is actually a Tamil writer. He transformed the lives of so many people. But people now, I don't think this kind of translation is taking place anymore, except through state-funded institutions, Sahitya Academy and National Book Trust. I saw the name of Arthur Ravi Verma on the invitation list. Is he coming? This man has spent years translating from Tamil into Malayalam. The volume is little, but through the translation of through his translations from Tamil into Malayalam, I am told that he has actually changed the course of how Malayalam prose is written by trying to draw from the Tamil roots of Malayalam, which apparently was lost down the line. These kind of issues are not being discussed, and I think that's where when Rakshanda mentioned the question of reviewing and editing I'll come to it perhaps if we have time. I think the quality of reviewing is very poor, but at least there is reviewing, so I'm happy for it. But the quality of reviewing, reviewers actually want to say something smart, a few lines smart about the translation, and they think they have served, they have done well if they have picked up one or two houses.
Give me an example of a review that you really want to tear up in the process.
Well, that'd be most of them. Except
Tell us about
very
one.
few. No, I have had a good
Today may be negative. Today is not
No,
about.
once again, I must say that I have been at the receiving end of very fair, even generous reviews, and I would tend to believe that it's not because of me, but because of the source text. I don't see anybody, damning classical Sangam poetry. I'm not going to see anybody saying nasty things about Sundaram Swami. So in that sense, I have been the receiving end of very fair and generous reviews. But generally, I generally read reviews of translations, and I find that something very seriously lacking. I'm not looking for the quality of, say, LRB or TLS kind of reviews.
Why not?
Because I am told that the reviewers are they are first-rate authors in themselves, not failed authors. That's first thing. Second, yes, I am looking for some rotten eggs and.
I mean, if you are already lowering the standards for reviewers, then your readers, where does that leave your readers?
So I think this is something that has to, and I think they are paid well. Reviewers are not paid. Why should
Reviewers get more money for one review than a translator gets for an
well,
exam?
which is true.
Only to the caravan, nowhere else. Where else?
Well, Caravan is sponsoring us.
Let me ask.
They are the only ones who actually pay.
Please note, Delhi Press, please note.
So let me ask what Sachin and Rakshanda something. It's a very interesting point you made, which is how translation inform writing in a particular language. So do you see, okay, I'm being mischievous again, do you see Indian writing in English improving as a result of all the translations that they have offered?
I don't know about Indian writing, but Indian teaching of Indian languages at the university level has certainly improved a lot in these past few years, and that's because of the kind of translations that are coming out. The curriculum has changed radically from just Kamala Markandeya and Nectar in a Sieve to coming down to modern times, to Manto, to a whole lot of things. And again, there was Manto just translated by Jayarakan because that was the only Manto that was available. Now in second year college in Delhi University, you have university teachers translating things which are being used as texts. So certainly I think the one place where I can't say about language generally, that would be very presumptuous, but certainly academic teaching, the use of textbooks has changed because of the kind of translation that is coming and the choices that you have. If it's just Manto, you have so much of Manto to choose from and use. And your students also have that choice. They don't have to read just one translation of Titwarka Kutta by Jayarakan. You have multiple versions of the same text.
I don't know about improving, but it will definitely impact Indian English. And one way that I see is that it will maybe the Anglophone idiom, which is predominant in English writing or Indian English context, has again its center somewhere in America or Britain. With growth of greater amount of text from Indian languages into English, will shift probably the centers of Indian English in a way that there will be greater freedom for Indian writers in English. Even there are translations like Sayuta, for example, that you have. This is also English. So that will give greater freedom instead of trying to just conform to an Anglophone center with your American English that you hear or British English. So I think in some way it will impact, but I'm not sure about improvement. There will be greater space for Indian writing to introduce in future in terms of content as well as kind of idiom.
So let me ask each of you, all three of you, and I want each of you.
If anything, translators are being influenced by Indian writing in English. Maybe people like Samanvay Nov are maybe giving a little more confidence to translators to use more non-Indian words. So that won't be magic realism kind of writing that is after Samanvay Nov so visible in Indian writing in English. I think that is giving a certain confidence to translators from Indian languages to retain more words and to say, oh, it's okay, you figure it out. If you don't know, you find out the meaning, but I'm going to use it in my translation.
So going beyond just the retention of words, which has become a bit of as everyone talks about, I'd like to ask each of you as translators, where you find anchor yourself. Do you anchor yourself in the Anglophone world when you're translating into English? Or have you found yourself starting there and moving away? Or were you never there? Where would you go for? What's your opinion?
I was never an Anglophone and I don't claim to speak Queen's English. So there's no reason at all why I should write in Queen's English. In fact, my running battle with my editors in the different publishing houses that I work with has always been this tendency that I find among editors to flatten out text. I want to retain those idiosyncrasies. I'm not pretending or claiming or wanting to write in immaculate English. I don't wish to. That's a bit hard to say because, I can't quote from memory, but certainly Intezar Hussain, whom I've just finished translating for HarperCollins, he builds his sentence, he has extremely long sentences. And the Bacha Log editors and publishing houses have a rule of thumb. They want to break up big sentences into small sentences. I don't want to do that. I think I know the difference between a grammatically incorrect sentence and one that may be transgressing the laws of grammar as was taught in Brennan Martin, but nevertheless is accepted. I want to transgress those things. And I don't want an editor telling me that this is not acceptable. If it is not like clumsy, if it is not awkward, if it is not completely sort of, befuddling, then let it stay.
Yeah, I would agree with Rakshanda. An example I can give you is there is a short story called Kala Pani, which when I started out I retained the title Kala Pani with keeping in mind that the audience would be people who know what Kala Pani is. The editor wanted it to be made into prison. Now that is the kind of prison. This is what editors expect. So I don't start out with Anglophone. I stay close to the Bhasha flavor.
But you find yourself in push.
Yeah, and the audience that I translate for would be people from India, with Indian English readers rather than Anglophone readers. So there would be a shared set of cultural signs which are recognized. For example, Kala Pani would be recognized by many, not few. So keeping that in mind when I translate, so it becomes a, you can get a greater space for awkwardness or even clumsiness.
So why only Indian readers? I mean, if readers in the West are embracing Indian writing in English, that's not Queen's English. Why should the translations have to suddenly
I think editors can answer it.
The editors have lost touch with that.
Maybe they can answer.
No, to answer your question another way, let's say we have done a translation, obviously for an Indian market. And let's say an agent reads it, and let's say an agent says, I would want to push this market, this book for an American market, and will you be willing to make this change? I will consider it. I'm not saying I'm going to reject the idea out of hand. I may or may not agree to those changes because I might say that no, I've used it for an Indian market, yes, to begin with, but I don't think there's anything wrong if a reader in Europe or in America is reading it, finding it a little difficult, but that difficulty is all right. You don't have to make it very simple. Our job as translators is to make it available, not simplify it. I don't think we need to do that.
No, I think, what the register that I use is what I think is contemporary English. I don't know what it is, but I know it is constantly changing. And I feel up to practicing it because I believe I'm at least reading a lot of it. I may not be very competent in it. But I think the big vein was, I would not even call it Queen's English, but Babu English. Only when we were able to throw out Babu English, I think our literary writing and translations became, readable. Now, you mentioned, eclectic translations. Sometimes the market, works to stop certain kinds of translations. The New Horizon Media based in Chennai, they had an imprint called Indian Writing. Over a period of 2-3 years, they published something like 20-30 novels in translation. By definition, if you are going to publish 20-30 translations in a period of 1 or 2 years, by definition it is going to be bad. That is how I see it. It didn't click because it was all done in kind of, this Babu English, had no sensitivity either to the original or to the language of translation. It didn't work. So I think here, literary, we need editors who have a certain special knowledge of translation, not the kind of experience I had when I first published JJ's. I want to give a concrete example because Arunava right from the morning has been wanting to pin us down on concrete examples. So there is this one particular moment in JJ's literature where JJ feels insulted. He says that I felt like somebody has spat on me, sputum, which is like egg yolk. Okay? When the edited version came, the egg yolk like sputum was missing. I said, what happened? He said, no, oh, it is gross and offensive, was the comment that the editor put. I said, that is precisely the point. So this kind of problems I have. Then, there was one passage where there are 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph contains exactly 2 words in Tamil, it becomes 4 words in English. And then the next paragraph runs into 1.5 pages. The editor wanted to break up into 3 or 4. I said, well, let us have even paragraphs. So this kind of editors we should not have. But I would like to say that these are exceptions. I mean, at least in my case. But we need good reviewers, good editors, and good marketing personnel.
So I think the editors have to desensitize themselves and decolonize at the same time.
I must tell you this story. There's a translator named Sachin Ketkar. He is an academic in the US. For 9 years, he's had a manuscript ready of Ashapurna Devi's short stories. And he's also pulled off a coup in having an excerpt from Jhumpa Lahiri's PhD dissertation on Ashapurna Devi as part of his manuscript to be offered as the introduction, which alone should be reason enough for any publisher to pick up the work. Now, he is insistent that not a word of his translation be touched or changed in any way, other than spelling errors, because he has scrupulously translated every Bengali idiom in literal terms. He refuses to anglicize them or to standardize them in any way that will make them easily acceptable to readers of English. Even when opportunity, then it's a low-hanging fruit. For example, in English you say you hang your head in shame. In Indian languages, Bangla, assuming in other Indian languages also, when you're filled with shame, you feel as though your head has been cut off. Lajjay matha kata. That's what it says in Bangla, right? So he has translated it as she felt as though her head had been chopped off. And editor after editor and publishing house after publishing house said, it must be hang your head in shame. And Prasenjit said, no, I am taking back my manuscript, I will not allow it.
In this case, I am with the publisher.
Okay. Okay. But well, interesting, because it's done it right through, and I think I've read it. I've read the whole manuscript. It works. In some miraculous way, it works. It is not pristine English, and you're very glad that it is. Because there's that rawness and immediacy of the experience of the claustrophobic Bengali middle class family, which is completely lost when it is told in the idiom of an English, urban family or the country. Somehow it loses its punch. Finally, Hachette has accepted the manuscript, I hope in its original form. I hope Prasenjit has not given up the battle. The book's been published, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. So let's see who. It's a bit of a triumph for the translator if it is finally out, for good or for bad. So this is a good time for me to bring you back to what we were originally going to start our discussion. I don't know how it went into the other thing. Now, conventional wisdom has it that a translator should have the target language as their mother tongue. So all of us should be native speakers of English, and we should have in some way learned the source language, maybe as a second language or maybe as a learned language. But here in India, it's just the opposite, right? All of us, most of us have grown up in our target languages, in our source languages, and we are writing it in the target. So that whole insider outsider language. How do you think it has helped you or hindered you?
I use English as a language for my own creative writing. I've written some short fiction and I write in English. The other non-fiction, critical writings that I do in English. I know Urdu is my mother tongue, but it's a language of the domestic realm for me. It's not the language of academic discourse for me. So it is my mother tongue in the sense it's a language I'm comfortable in, Urdu and Hindi also to some extent. But I don't think I can write in either Urdu or Hindi. I would completely hamstrung if I were to write. So it works for me to move from Hindi and Urdu into English. I don't think I can move from English into Hindi.
No, sure,
I wouldn't have that vocabulary.
But I'm saying that does the fact that Urdu is your mother tongue, is that a much better thing than would have been had English been your mother tongue?
It works because I'm doing it this way. If I were doing it the other way, it wouldn't work.
That's because English is not your mother.
That's because you're not you're not comfortable with
Yeah.
it. I know, I get it. What about?
See,
You worked in both directions.
I constantly work in both the languages because all my writings, most of my writings are available in both languages. Sometimes I write first in Tamil and then rewrite it in English. And I write in English and rewrite it in English. Each time I do this, it's a new process. But when writing in Tamil, of course, I loathe myself when I write. I don't want to write, but somehow you end up writing. But in this process, writing in Tamil I'm more comfortable because I know that even if I slip up somewhere in grammar or anything, I can always come up with an intellectual argument, a grammatical argument, quote one sutra rather than other to justify my failure. But English, it's always like the Arigandam and Yamagandam which poets used to sing that. There is a fire below their seat and there is a sword hanging up and you have to compose a poem within a fixed time. Writing in English is something like that, and it also restricts the range. For instance, in translating, I chose to translate Sundar Ramaswamy's Dejas Rakritu. rather than Kulandaigal Pengal Angal, because Kulandaigal Pengal Angal is set in a family which is full of conversation, between father, mother, niece, nephews, uncles. This is something that I would not be able to capture with my English. So I know that, so I rule that out. So the choice of text for translation is dictated by my competence in the tongue.
Do you find your experience is very different when you're translating from English to Tamil, vis-a-vis Tamil to English?
English to Tamil is because, yes, I know, I feel that, I'm full control of this project.
Not so much as you said.
Absolutely. I'm a servant to English.
But you're in greater control of the source material.
And Tamil is my beloved, so I take a lot of liberty.
Are you in control of your beloved?
Well, I can woo her, woo into her ears, somehow get things done.
Yeah, I think the question is like, why do you write in English when it's not your first language? And I think Ramanujan resolved it once and for all, because you can. So it's something similar. Why do you translate English? Because you can. And of course, there are greater set of constraints when you write in English, when you translate into English. And there is, I don't know who my audience is. For example, one poem that I translated title is Mrs. Limaye. Right. So what Mrs. Limaye means in Marathi is very clear. The name itself has a lot of cultural sign, caste sign. But when I translate it in English, I know that this Limaye, so my audience and the knowledge that I share with the audience is for me very vague. I don't know who is going to read it when I translate a Marathi poem into English. So that is first constraint. And second is the resources of language which are available to me in Marathi or in Gujarati are not available because I don't hear English once being spoken when I go outside of a table. So the range of resources available to a person who is using a bhasha are greater. You have access to many kind of stuff.
So would you think that your translation of a Marathi text into English would qualitatively be very different from a translation from English to Marathi?
Yeah.
You would be more free-flowing in the Marathi.
Yeah, there would be greater freedom for me to do things. So I know who it's going to.
And Rakshanda, for you to teach us the other way around. It would be just the other way.
It will be very, very deficient. I'm comfortable speaking in Urdu, but my vocabulary is gharelu, is domestic. I don't have at my command a larger vocabulary, as I would unfortunately blame it on the English medium education or whatever. So Urdu is something I speak very comfortably in and correctly. But I don't think if I were to translate into Urdu, I would falter with vocabulary. I wouldn't falter with syntax, but certainly my vocabulary would be stilted.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean exactly the same. Absolutely. All right. Thank you. We are going to now open this to the audience. Questions? Yes, from the back, please. Margaret.
Well, I'm glad to be here because this is a fascinating subject for me, as some of you may know and some of you won't. I'm half Indian and half American, raised in South America, and I have encountered all along in my writing career the problem of translation. It's not just relegated to Indian versus English, but it's pretty much a problem throughout the world. I, for example, write in Spanish, and I translate my own work into English. That process has become, as I have worked more and more in English, I've been able to write more and more in English directly. But for example, when I wrote one of my novels, mostly in Spanish, I translated it myself, and I can't remember which one of you said that they had translated or spoke about an author who had translated their own work, and that was a phenomenal success. The author who can translate their own work is at a huge advantage, because the author will know exactly what kind of nuance they want to allow you to go by. So when I wrote my second novel, I wrote it in Spanish, I translated it to English, and then I left a huge amount of Spanish that I could not translate. It was not translatable into English, and I knew that, and I left it in the book, and my publisher, which was Ashed USA, allowed me to do that. I don't think we're there yet in publishing in India yet. My question to some of you is a bit self-centered. I work in the Aguada jail in Goa, and I work with inmates teaching them poetry and art. And I work in Marathi, in Konkani, in Hindi, and we have a couple of Nepalis also, and in English. And I have a very, very difficult time finding translators. Not just, of course, to work with me in the jail. I'm teaching those convicted of pretty serious crimes, but to then translate their work. So I would appreciate anybody speaking with any of you later on or now about how we can access translators who would be willing to do that kind of work, even if it's the translation after the process has been already done basically by somebody else.
Okay, thank you. We can connect on that separately. Yes, please.
I just have a couple of questions. We spoke a lot about translators and their positions of power or otherwise. I just wanted to ask, because I think some of you have worked on anthologies of translated works. So I have two questions. I mean, does the translator get to choose the text in a translation anthology or not? Or is it always the editor who chooses? And yeah, and if whoever chooses the text or the poems or whatever, so what is the criteria? For example, Sachin sir, you worked on translation of Marathi poems into English. So how do you decide, which poems are to be chosen which represent the Marathi literature in English? So how do you define that?
Thank you.
So, Rakshanda, you want to take the one about
Well, I've edited a couple of anthologies, and I think it's my prerogative as an editor to choose what I want included, because I will want to pick it up and talk about it in the introduction. And that's the whole idea. I mean, so you're taking away my work from me in a sense. Having said that, if somebody comes along and says, have you read this? Would you want to read this? I'd be very open to the idea of taking that as a suggestion and then seeing if it fits my larger theme of the anthology, and then getting the same person who suggested it to translate it. So it's not such a hard and fast rule, but by and large it's pretty much the editor's job to decide what goes. I mean, the selection has to be and should be the editor's choice.
So, I definitely agree with you about the scarcity of translators. Now, it's a big issue. I think it's a very serious issue. And translating between bhashas, Indian languages, will be even severe shortage of translators that we face. And coming to the question which you asked about how do you select while making an anthology. Now, anthologizing is a canonizing activity. And even when I state directly, and fortunately in my case, I was the editor and I was the translator. So I had a choice in my material. But
you had no arguments with yourself.
I had no arguments. So the question I would answer is this: how do you select the text? Then it very often goes along with your own sensibility as a writer. So my own tendencies or my own orientation as a writer in some way selects which poems to be translated, and that narrows down. It doesn't become a representative anthology. So I've said in my anthology, it is not representation of Marathi poetry, but it's kind of presentation of a selection. So my own subjectivity, my own personal taste, as well as my own capacity as translator, as well as the translatability of the text. All these constraints are definitely there. So it's, all these things shape the book as it goes.
As an editor of an anthology, your job is not just to translate. I think the context, writing the introduction, all of those are also part of your job. So somewhere you're conscious also of, in a sense, you're justifying why you use what you have. Which is, I like to do that. So I've also I've spent a fair amount of time in writing the introduction to say why I chose this and to build a narrative about the choices.
Any other questions? Yes.
This is for you, Anurava. I don't know whether you were being half serious when you talked about a very happy situation of having published 30 books and relying confidently that if they are good, they will be sold, right? I was wondering whether it's not really a matter, I speak as an agreed translator of course, that whether it's not a matter of how it's marketed or shown. If your book is not very visible, then probably it wouldn't get sold, isn't it?
Absolutely. That goes without saying. I'm just saying all other things being equal, the better books will sell, will find more readers. But how many depends on a great deal of other factors.
May I also take another one? We've been working with the Sahitya Academy and Samanvay all focusing on Bhasha. Why do we not talk amongst ourselves in the Bhashas? Which is a very serious point, so much being written. Probably, of course, realistically, the fact is, of course, that we do not understand each other's language, except for very few, for instance. I mean, I being a Bengali would understand a little bit of Urdu, Sanskrit, Hindi, but not beyond that. So, that is the reason. But it is a very, I mean, I know in Bengali almost book being written in any other bhasha, in English or French, or anyone, is instantly translated. I wonder if you agree with that? Yes.
Used to be at one point. It's now the focus has shifted, like with other languages, towards commercial literature. So homegrown commercial literature featuring aborted love affairs between BPO employees and who are teetering on the verge of sex on the roof but can't quite get themselves there. 1,000 pages long.
If I may respond to this question,
I think Mitra had a question.
no, I wanted to add some.
No, this is a very interesting point. Even I feel that we need to talk a little more about this whole thing about translating within Indian languages. And this was the mandate of the Sahitya Academy to begin with. You see, Katha did some very good work of translating between languages, let's say from Malayalam to Hindi and so on, or Marathi to Malayalam, languages that are not sister languages like, let's say, Urdu and Hindi are. And this is something we need to talk about, and it's very unfortunate, whether it's forums like this, whether it's Lit Fairs, or whether it's any niche space where you're talking about translation, the unwritten, the sort of subtext is always translated into English. It needn't be so. In a country with so many languages, how come the focus has somehow come into translating into English? And even the Sahitya Academy seems to be kind of forgetful of its mandate, which was to translate between languages. And that's somehow getting lost somewhere.
Okay, we are out of time. Thank you everybody. Thanks very much. Thanks for being here.
A big thank you to all of you for such an engrossing session.